Today I have with me Dr. Tony Karam. You've seen him. I love his work. We will be talking about his concert at the NDU and a new exhibition at the university. Watch the full interview. Dr. Tony, how are you?
I'm good.
How's everything?
Everything's perfect.
Yes. You have something happening at NDU.
Yes.
What do you want to tell me about?
I will tell you that we're launching an exciting series of exhibitions at the Notre Dame University. They were gracious enough to open their doors for the arts, and we are happy to collaborate with them in trying to bring arts to that area, to that academic place, the prestigious academic place. And we're happy to do it in collaboration with all of the people that are there.
There are two things happening simultaneously.
Well, here's the thing. The key event is that we are going to be at NDU and we're going to be doing a series of exhibitions.
Okay.
And the idea was, how do we launch it?
Yes, okay.
So we're going to launch on April 4th, Thursday, and I will launch it with a concert, with a piano concert that I'm going to give, okay, at 6:30 p.m. And following that, at 7:30 p.m. would be the opening of our first series of exhibitions. So we will start with an exhibition for the artist Wissam Melhem. The question might be, why did we choose Wissam and how come this happened?
Yeah.
Well, there's a little history. The history is that Wissam used to teach at NDU.
Okay.
And then he moved on to becoming an artist and etc., etc. And over the past few years, he's been well acknowledged all around the world. And this is sort of like his comeback as an artist to NDU. So we thought that it would be appropriate to start with him. And of course, I always wanted to do something at NDU, and the circumstances just happened that it allowed this to work out. And this is actually something that was cooked by Mr. Dr. Salim Ael, who is the chairman of the design department, who is working in close conjunction with the dean, Karam Abu Jawdi, who is the sweetest person that you might meet, and she's so into making the arts move forward at their university. And all of this, of course, is under the patronage of Father Bashar Al-Khouri, who's the president of NDU, who we met and was so supportive that he made things happen in record time, honestly. I mean, you know, with universities and bureaucracy, sometimes things linger. They were actually super collaborative and very supportive, and they made things happen very quickly.
That's interesting. We had similar event in another university.
Correct.
And I was there, I watched your concert, and there was an exhibition.
Yes.
And it's a good start, you know, with the NDU, with your concert. We will cover what you will be, you know, playing and what is the intention behind it. What do you think, or what is your reflection about having these events at the universities? Because in my opinion, university is opinion formation, because you're starting to the critical thinking of the students and their career and their life. And it's important to give this perspective of art, of how much it can enrich their experience and their life later.
Let me comment on that. Look, in architecture, you can't build a building without foundations, right?
Right.
If you want to become somebody in life, be it, you know, whatever profession you choose, you can't do it without going through high school and or college. Very few people make it without passing through that, you know, necessary path. In my opinion, college is where, you know, the brains of our future generation gets molded into developing that generation. And so for me, to be part of an academic institution okay? Not necessarily part of, meaning I'm one of the faculty, I'm not. But I'm just somebody who is helping through that venue to bring, as you said, critical thinking into the process, bring different opinions, bring minds that are open to learning, minds that are open to criticizing, and it becomes a mutually beneficial process that is way above commercialism, etc., etc. And it's a good thing that you mentioned that we did this before at another academic institution. And basically, people might think that, oh, it didn't work out in this one, so they're going to another one. It's not like that at all.
Okay.
It's we are moving from one institution to another so that we can bring everyone together. There's no competition here. There's collaboration, and it's a totally different setting. There is no, we would love to stay in one place. It's easier for everybody. But then why not give opportunities to everyone? We're not bound to a certain place or to a certain institution. Not at all.
Yeah, I understand you and I agree with you. It's not about like staying in one place and being lazy to just be there.
Yeah.
And I recognize your effort to do that because if you go somewhere else like Europe, the same way that we have so many rooted cultural activities here, we don't have it as strong as in Europe to connect to the arts. I'm talking about music, about classical music, about visual arts, about theater. Altogether, you see that people are literate and they have this intimacy with it. And it's different from just once in your life to have this experience or to have it more often and early in life.
Correct.
This point. And I recognize your effort to bring it to people as their, future and early experience.
Can I tell you my point of view about art in general?
Yes.
Do you like food?
Yes.
Very good. So if I cook for you the best food on earth and I don't spice it up, it's different, right?
Yeah.
Whereas when I add the spices, it can change the whole
Totally.
perspective of the thing. Okay. In my opinion, art is the spice of life. Let's put it that way. It becomes easier for people to understand where I'm coming from.
Okay.
So in my opinion, even what we did in Lebanon, be it in an academic institution or outside of an academic institution, we've added spice, we've added flavor to life in general. Instead of doing your routine things and going back home and watching the news and or going to a restaurant, having some food, staying with friends, whining about the economic situation, etc., etc.
Okay.
What we heard from people is that thank you for bringing this and for bringing people together and showing us a different side, which we may like or not like, we may agree or disagree with the message that's there, but it's spice.
Yes.
Right?
It gives colors, it gives taste.
Correct. What I'm doing in parallel to me bringing spice to people, adding spice to their life, is that we're moving it into an academic setting so that we can improve upon the spice that we're giving. And at the end of the day, I'm someone who loves art. I have my own opinion and I have my own taste. That is not dictative to anyone. But when you get recognition from an academic institution that agrees with what you're, because there are rules and regulations. You can't just put anything anywhere. You can do that in a private setting, but you can't do that in an academic setting. And we succeeded in doing 15 exhibitions in an academic institution with, microscope being, focused on us. And we succeeded, and everybody who actually participated succeeded in one way or another. The aim is not sales, as I always say, but sales occurred, be it in the exhibitions or afterwards, which gives, monetary, value to the thing that you're doing for the artist. But as far as I'm concerned, it's the people that are telling me, thank you for what you're doing. And to me, that's the recognition we need.
Yeah. I want to comment on something, and I like immensely the metaphor that you used about food. And in your effort to bring more and more experience of music and art is like taking a person to experiment more tastes.
Yes.
And they're able more to recognize taste, because if someone never traveled and they're just used to one kind of food, it's hard for them to experiment and to enjoy other tastes.
Yeah.
The point that what I want to comment is to bring classical music and bring art to academic institution where people are all on screens hearing only the top latest music, and that I'm not undermining whatever they're doing, but it's bringing another experience to like educate their taste, to expand their experience.
Let me comment on a small thing regarding classical music and that kind of thing. I mean, people, when they hear or read classical music, 99% of the time they're bored of the get-go, because nobody knows, or they don't understand it. And even the people who like to listen to it, they sometimes don't understand what they're listening to. It might just be a tune that they like, or they doze off. Well, it's not like that. And in my concerts specifically, for those people who have seen my concerts or attended them, I do it a little bit differently. Not to, put myself aside from the crowd, but because I actually enjoy doing it that way. I don't just play the music for you, or I don't give you the name of the music and then you can research it and see if you like it or not to come hear me play it. That's boring. I tell you a little bit about the piece. Why was it performed this way? Or why was it written this way? Or what's the message behind it? I mean, that composer thought of something before putting that notes on paper. And it's your interpretation that you're giving a certain value to it. Just pick any song. 4 people can sing it. You might not like all 4 people singing it. It's different every time. With classical music, there's, margins for like playing around with things, not changing the notes, obviously, except if you're at a standard where you can improvise, but you say that you're improvising, etc., etc. So it becomes an educative experience. We've done that way before we're doing exhibitions and art, exhibitions in universities.
How long you've been playing and doing?
I've been performing since I was 3, so that's not something new to me. But I haven't done it that way except in the last maybe 6-7 years, where I actually talk a little bit before every piece, because you want to make the experience pleasurable. And that derives from, when I go and watch pianists play, internationally recognized pianists, even I would love to know what the pianist is thinking before interpreting this piece. They don't tell you that. They just go on stage, they play, you clap, they play, you clap, and end of story, and then you go congratulate them. That's a little bit boring. I think in today's world where information is key, it would be great to give people some kind of information that they can build on. Not too much to bore them. Of course, I know every single little detail about every piece that I'm going to play. I'm not going to tell you that. But what I'm going to tell you is good enough for you to enjoy it for the next few minutes.
Complement the experience.
Exactly.
There's something I want to comment on. You mentioned that people say, oh, classical music, it's boring. There was... I watched a documentary, or I don't remember if it was a documentary or an article that I read about classical music. People, or the traditional media, they don't use it, they don't put it out, as people don't like it. But yet, you go to a concert and it's full.
Yes.
And the last one, I was there with you and it was full.
Correct. Sometimes people go because they want to be seen. But in my concert specifically, people, when they go, they want to come again. And even if, I don't usually repeat things except, rarely. But when I do, you hear it differently every time, because there's something, it's spice, right? And food. It's not always exactly the same. But the idea is that you learn something and you enjoy it. Okay. And, I think that that's key and that is important. And I want to comment on something that you just mentioned with, like, the new music and people looking and what. There's merit to everything, but I can sit with you and tell you, not every piece, but most pieces that you hear, songs by Maroon 5 and Sting and whatever, I can tell you where that piece came from.
From the classical.
Right, and music. I can actually overlap them for you, and I will tell you where the notes overlap or where they reversed it so that it looks, you'd be surprised at where all of this came from. And if I told you, like, for example, one famous band with one of their number one songs, it's something that Rachmaninoff, played.
And they just
composed,
grab it from...
And they actually ended up paying
the rights.
For the rights for the Rachmaninoff state, etc., etc. These are interesting things. And all I'm saying is that it's good to make pieces interesting, no matter what they are, be it classical music, pop music, rock music, whatever it is.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. And like in photography, someone comes and say, I want to break the rules. Mm-hmm. But you need to know them first.
Correct.
Right? You want to play music, to hear music, you need to educate yourself and to improve your ear experience to get to admire and consume music better.
Right.
And the experience of hearing and watching a live show is different from hearing it from a small speaker on the phone and all that. I know that because the acoustic experience is totally different.
Yes, and visualizing the artist as well.
And living the experience.
And living that emotion and looking. And sometimes I actually ask people to close their eyes during the performance because I want to heighten the sense.
Yeah.
But that's, sometimes I close my eyes and I play. And it gives me a different way of interpreting a piece. But you're right. Coming to a venue, it's sort of like, when you see there's this beautiful painting behind me. If you see it in a picture, it's totally different than seeing it now on video. Come see it live, totally different experience. We see in 3D. We look at pictures in 2D, no matter what you do. So
actually, life is in 2D. We interpret it in 3D.
Exactly. It's a brain thing. And see, the nice thing about, also being a doctor is that you understand these things. But look, perhaps my experience as a physician, as a surgeon, when I talk to a patient and explain to them a complicated procedure and I actually do it, it helps me with the artistic thing. Why? Because it's sort of the same. I studied 15 years to be able to do a surgery, or 15 years of higher education to try to understand hormonal changes in women, let's say, okay? And I don't have to explain to you all the details of the 15 years, but I can give you the conclusion. With this, you can't go on stage and play a Rachmaninoff piece if you haven't trained for 20 or 25 years. But I don't need to tell you all those details. I can tell you the story, what to take from it, so you benefit from like the end product.
And to live the experience.
Food again. You don't go through what the cook or what your mom or went through, or your wife, to cook that meal. But when you enjoy it, you enjoy it. Then she can tell you, well, I used Indian spices, or I used blah, blah, blah. Then you enjoy it a little bit more.
Yes.
But she's not going to tell you the exact process of what she did all day long or what he did all day long to get you to that meal. Does that make sense?
Yes, I understand. Well, I really enjoy what you're doing, and it brings a different spice, different taste. It's not that it brings people to be able to consume other arts or to understand things from these works. And it's nice. In this podcast, I'm aiming to connect to the arts in general, to music, to theater and cinema, when it is part of what we're discussing. Tell me a little bit, the choice you chose, Wissam, you mentioned, he's an architect. He used to teach at NDU. We will be showing some of the images. What is your relationship to Wissam's work? We never talked about that.
Look, I was attracted to Wissam's work. I never knew Wissam before I was attracted to his work. I saw some of his works on Instagram. It attracted me, and it also attracted a collector friend of mine. So we spoke about it, and then I decided to touch base with him, and that's exactly what happened. And when I came the first time to see his work, at his home, this was Corona times, I fell in love with a lot of pieces, and there were others that didn't speak to me, honestly. And it was then that you kind of explore the artist and you connect with them on an intellectual level, and we discussed and talked about many things, and this friendship developed, and it became wider and deeper. And maybe it's because I also fancied architecture when I was young. That was my hobby. My hobby was to draw houses and buildings as I was growing up. And my parents always thought that, I might become an architect. And I always said that if I fail at getting into medical school, maybe I would go into architecture. So there's this background that we cannot speak the same language. So when he does something, architecturally speaking, it makes sense to me. So, I've always had friends who are architects as well. And so it was interesting for me that he moved into the arts world and used a lot of his, visualization of things to put it on canvas in a story that makes sense. So that's how things started to develop. And we saw Wissam's work, develop over the past 4 years from, I don't want to say from good to better, but that's exactly what it is.
There is an evolution. There's always mutation and evolution.
Right.
For the right artist.
Right. And then, you sort of sometimes doubt your choices. In life, you always question, am I doing the right thing? Am I, supporting the right thing? Am I really actually buying things that are worth something? And then you get validated by others who kind of, weigh in and say, okay, this is good work. And I'm not saying others meaning just people with their own tastes, but like people of credibility, people, curators of big museums in the world who actually handpicked this work, among others, to be in permanent collections. And to me, I'm proud of the fact that these people are my friends. I mean, when I give a selection of 26 artists to a museum and they pick 4, and the 4 are close friends of mine who I admire their works, and I have to mention them here. I mean, Wissam Melhem, Zena Nader, Fadia Ahmad, and Lina Hosseini. I knew that they were credible, and
then you had the confirmation.
Yeah, I mean, how that makes me proud, and at the same time it validates quote unquote my taste, which is good. I don't claim to be the best that's out there, but whatever I can do for people to kind of show them and promote them and make them better, why not?
And knowing you, I know how much effort you put and push, and the word in Arabic is dam. It's just like support to really make things happen for the sake of art.
Yes.
Not as a commercial
I don't care about the commercial thing.
And I'm testimonying this,
Well, thank you. You've actually witnessed us in Dubai and other places.
Yes. How is it going in Dubai?
It's still going, which is very weird. I mean, it's been more than a month. We've finished our mandate of what we have agreed on. And they called us and they said, we don't want this to end. We want to continue, and they actually offered, everything for us, in terms of the continuation and stuff, like for free. I mean, this is, I can't ask for more. And I actually agreed without going back to the artist, because I don't think anyone would say no. And they all agreed eventually. So yeah, it's still going. And the big question I get asked is that till when? And I actually don't have an answer. Believe it or not, this is how we're dealing now with an institution like the Ritz-Carlton, the IFC, which is, one of the best in the world. So, what can I say? I'm flattered, I'm honored, and I think everyone, who's participating in this is actually very grateful, and this is a big boost to their careers. And regarding commercialism, because I always get asked this question, or people talk behind it, and I've said it in every place that I could. There is zero benefit for me as a person for this. It's actually, money draining, if anything. I actually am a successful doctor. I don't need this for my, this is where I get my income from. And, thank God I'm happy. And if I can help, even in medicine, I do. And in art, I definitely do, because this is a mission from day one. Even when we had no money, as my parents, when we were growing up, anything that I did in arts with all my concerts was benefiting somebody or someone or an institution, nothing for us.
Great. Well, a lot of success. I wish you in the coming opening with your concert. And let it be the kickstart of a lot of exhibitions and a lot of success with the NDU.
Yes.
And thank you for this amazing interview. It's always very nice and interesting for me to have you on my podcast.
Thank you, Elio. Thank you for your support. And once again, I wanna thank the NDU for opening this door, not for us. I want to thank them on behalf of their own students who still don't know what's happening, but they're gonna find out. And I think that if we can touch one student or one professor or one person, even a guest, then we've done our mission.
That's great. That's amazing. Thank you very much, and see you at the opening.
Thank you.